trying to do a chicken video when they know you have their snacks is actually a very, a very hard feat. Okay, we're a little far. Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. So I tried to give them some mealworms to keep them in this area while we're filming, so hopefully it works. And since summer is vastly approaching, I just wanted to go over a few ways to make sure that you keep your chickens cool in the summertime. And the first thing I want to talk about is the difference of feed. So the reason why you want to give them a pellet feed instead of a feed that has corn and whole grains in it is because the corn and the whole grains is going to take more energy for them to digest, which means that it's going to elevate their body temperatures. And the last thing you want is to elevate the body temperatures of your chickens when they're already sensitive to heat. So make sure you're switching to a pellet kind of feed in the summertime will really help make sure that they're not elevating their body temperatures too high in order to digest their food. My second tip would be to put ice in your waterer. Now you can freeze it overnight if you want, if you have the freezer space, and just bring it out like an hour before you're going to give it to them. But I would definitely recommend putting ice or cold water in their waterer and making sure that it stays cold, because if the water is warm or hot, chickens aren't going to eat it, and like I said, they're really susceptible to heat stroke and heat sickness, so you want to make sure that their water is staying really cold. The next tip I have is to give them, give them lots of fresh fruits and veggies. Blueberries and watermelon are the chicken's personal favorites. But yeah, you want to make sure that, you want to make sure that you're giving them either fresh fruit and vegetables or frozen fruit. What is a really good trick is you can put some fruit in an ice cube tray, fill it with water, and then freeze it, and then just give that to them. Or you can just use frozen fruit straight from the bag. Just go ahead and give that to them in a bowl, and make sure that, and then just making sure that they are staying hydrated and they are drinking enough water, because what the frozen fruit is going to do, not only is it cold to cool them down, but it also has water in it, which will make sure that they are staying hydrated. The most simple way to make sure that your chickens are staying cool in the summertime is to provide shade. Now their coop does get pretty direct sun when the sun is out, so that's why during the part of the day when the sun is directly on their coop and they don't really have shade area, I make sure that I let them out. I'm just gonna hold it because the chickens kept knocking it over and I'm giving up. So like I was saying, the part of the day where they get direct sunlight on their coop, I make sure that they're out and about in the yard so that way they can find their own kind of shade. Usually they like to go under, don't mind the mess, my patio furniture over there, and they'll hide under there. But making sure that they can find their own shade is also very important to making sure that your chickens can stay cool during the summertime. The next tip would to be ventilate their coop. So I do have this window here that I open, or I can open this whole door completely. I kind of like switch it on and off. They do have a vent on the other side of their coop as well, and making sure that their coop stays well ventilated so that way it doesn't get stuffy and gross in there is also another thing that you can do for them. And the next tip that I would have is to not use the deep litter method in the coop in the summertime. Now some people do it and they have no problems in areas where it doesn't tend to have hot days. In the Midwest, it's a little more dangerous for chickens because random heat waves like that we're gonna have this weekend are more dangerous for chickens than if it's continual hot weather. So some people can use the deep litter method all year round and not have a problem with it. However, during hot days, I would not recommend it because obviously the bed shavings and the chicken poop combined create a lot of extra heat, and you don't want any more heat than you need in the summertime for your chickens. So that would be another tip, just to make sure that you're keeping your coop clean. The less poop in the coop, the cooler it would be for them. Another tip that I have would be to use a sprinkler. So like I said, when the sun is shining bright on their coop, I just take the hose and spray it all around the hose and just cooling off their area in general. So that way I spray it on their roosts so that way those don't get as hot and everything. You just want to make sure you're kind of spraying everything down with the hose to try to keep all their surfaces that they touch cool as possible as well. Another tip you can do is to have a kiddie pool out for them. Again, this would be more so people who have super hot summers all year round, so that way when the chickens see the pool, they kind of get used to it. Because if you try to pull a pool out on chickens randomly, they're gonna look at it and you like, what is that and what do you want me to do with it? So if you are in a consistently hot, dry area, then I would recommend having a kiddie pool out for your chickens, because eventually they'll end up using it, and then it'll be an extra way for them to dip down their body temperature when they start to get too hot. Another tip that I would have is to dunk your chickens in water. Now this sounds dramatic, and that's because it is. You only want to use this as an absolute last case scenario, but if your chickens are demonstrating signs of heat stroke, which we will get into shortly, you want to take their bodies and dunk them in water for up to a whole minute. Now it can't be ice cold water. If your hose is coming out super cold, I would let it sit out in the sun for a half hour to make it a little bit warmer, and then you can dunk them completely up to their neck, up to a minute, just to instantly cool their body temperature down and bring them back to a safe space so they're not overheating. And lastly, if you really don't feel safe with leaving your chickens out in the heat, or you have to be out all day or something like that and you're scared they're going to overheat, you could always bring them inside, put them in your basement, in your air conditioning, just assign an area to the chickens that they can go ahead and be chickens in. And you can also use that as a last resort if you feel unsafe with leaving your chickens outside in extreme heat waves. Signs of heat stress and heat stroke in chickens. Overheating chickens will usually pant. They do start to pant when they get hot naturally, just like dogs pant when they're hot. However, it's when their tongues start to move up and down and they're panting heavily, then that is a sign showing that they are getting into some heat stress, and you might want to take some measures to cool them down. Another sign of heat stress or heat stroke in chickens is when they're standing with their wings held out away from their body, when they are droopy and lethargic, when they have a decreased appetite. Chickens naturally eat less in the summertime or when they're super hot, but if they're really not eating at all, that's a sign that your chickens are in heat stress. And pale or discolored combs and wattles. So their wattles are usually a bright pink or a bright red, sorry. And if they get to like a super light pink color, that would be, and she also has all the other symptoms, and that would be signs that your chickens are overheating and you need to cool them down quickly. And then also the last thing, if your chickens are already laying, if there is an extended period of time where there's a lot of heat, it will slow down your egg production. Just like in the winter, the extreme cold can slow down egg production. The extreme heat also has the same effect on chickens as well. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you have any other tips for keeping your chickies cool in the summertime, and the girls and I will see you next time. Bye.